What's up, guys? Welcome to the Dynasty Fan Podcast, bringing you a Week 9 fantasy recap today. So, pretty crazy day. Had some big time scoring from Justin Fields, Joe Mixon in particular. So, if you had them in your lineup, congratulations. If you played against them, you're probably in a tough spot. At least you could just enjoy the games after, right? So, how are you doing, Ryan, this week in fantasy?
I'm doing well, man. Doing mostly good. Struggling in one or two dynasties, but overall I'm doing well, man. For not having running backs in a lot of redraft leagues, I'm doing pretty well, man. Receivers are saving me, and also in our guillotine, our 18 team guillotine league, Joe Mixon saved me today. So doing pretty good.
Nice, man. Yeah, I had Mixon in a few leagues, but definitely played against him also, which stinks. But let's get into it, man. So first, we're going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings right now. I'm talking about Hawk, man. So first season debut, first game out there, goes 9 for 9, right? 9 for 9, 70 yards. So 16 fantasy points in his first outing in the Vikings, man. He looks good out there. Looks solid in that offense. Possibly going to be that number 2 option, right? I know Thielen's been struggling a little bit. He's aging, right? We'll see how it goes, but it looks like Hockenson, man, just a perfect fit for that Minnesota Vikings. 7-1, so they're looking pretty solid right now, man. What'd you think about Hawk?
Man, well, I'm gonna first say that obviously this is a biased opinion as a huge Vikings fan, but I love Hawkinson, man. I loved him with the Lions, right? I have a lot of shares of him in dynasties, and I draft him a lot in redraft because of where he was going. But he's a solid tight end, man. He's tight end 5 on the year, and I really like him with the Vikings. The Vikings, it looked like he developed some chemistry even early with Kirk Cousins. He was checking down to him over the flat in the flat, and so he had a good game, man, for his debut. This was big, man. I mean, we he's a step up for sure. He's an upgrade from Irv Smith, and I liked Irv Smith, but obviously Hockenson is a better overall tight end. So I think the Vikings smashed with this trade. I don't know why the Lions would give up on Hockenson, such a young tight end. Doesn't make sense to me. But the Vikings, I like it for my Vikings though.
Yes, sir. So moving on, going to talk about the Miami Dolphins. So specifically their backfield. But before we talk about that backfield, there was a good little shakeup in there, right? If you missed it. But Tyreek and Waddle just continue to smash, man. And Tua, I think he's QB3 on the week. Tyreek with 27 fantasy points. He's wide receiver 2 this week. And then you got Jalen Waddle as the wide receiver 6. There's a lot of buys, but still 19.5 fantasy points for Waddle as well. So man, Miami and that offense just looked solid. It was a good game, right? They had a great game today against Chicago. And then if you're looking at the running backs, man, pretty shocking to me. Like I thought Jeff Wilson would come in. I mean, he's familiar with the system. I thought it'd be like a 1-2 punch, but man, this dude comes out pretty much. He's the RB6 on the week, so he gets basically outworks Mostert, right? Comes in, gets you 9 for 51. So the same amount of carries, right? Mostert wasn't too efficient, 9 for 26. Maybe he's got that injury, right? They were kind of concerned with him and the knee. So maybe he's a little bit banged up. So he pretty much splits carries his first game, goes 3 for 3 on the targets, gets a receiving touchdown. So RB6 on the week, man, for Jeff Wilson. Mostert not so well. He's pretty far down there. Didn't get too much fantasy points today. So I'm liking that, man. If you have Jeff Wilson stashed, or he might even be on some waiver wires, right? With that trade that happened with the CMC deal and all that, he might be on your waiver wire. So probably somebody that we're gonna look into and be trying to add coming into that next week.
Yeah, for sure, man. He's somebody that I don't have a lot of shares of, but I did see him dropped in a couple leagues, but then he was like picked up, right? It's one of the pitfalls, I guess, of playing in so many leagues. Sometimes you miss things, right? And so that was definitely something I missed with Jeff Wilson. I mean, he looking like he's going to be somebody that they're going to play consistently like a split backfield or a timeshare. And the Dolphins, man, their offense looks great. I mean, Tua looks great. As long as he can stay healthy, they look good. I mean, who would have thought it, dude? Tyreek Hill, everybody was saying sell Tyreek Hill in Dynasty. They don't like it with Tua. They're not gonna. It's not Mahomes. He's the wide receiver 1 overall on the year right now. That's crazy, and he's putting up crazy numbers. He's the wide receiver 1 on the year.
Yeah.
They're looking for him, man. They're finding him in the flat. He's catching touchdowns, long balls, or jet sweeps. I mean, you name it, he's doing. And Tua is also getting Waddle involved too. Like, you would
Mhm.
think, Waddle's not going to be good, but they're both top 10, 12, top 12 wide receivers, man, pretty consistently. So that's pretty crazy, man. I mean, I don't really think many people saw that from Tua, but you got to give him credit. I mean, what is his value like right now, like in Superflex? Dynasty,
Gotta be going.
man. Yeah, for
It's gotta be
sure.
going up. He was
For
like mid
sure. It's
QB
gotta
two.
be
He was like
going
mid
up.
QB2 in
Yeah.
Dynasty, right? He was kind of
He's
falling
got
back there, man. He's
he's
gotta
gotta
be up there
be
now.
he's gotta be a QB1 now for Dynasty, I think. I think he's
Yeah.
gotta be like obviously lower end. I'm
He's
not putting him.
he's tiptoeing in that for sure, man.
Yeah, it's
Last
Burrow,
year,
is
some of those guys were ahead of him
Herbert.
last year. It was like
Yeah.
Stafford and guys like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Brady,
Guys inside
Stafford,
him.
Rodgers. No, none of those guys. Carr, no. I mean,
Fields.
yeah.
We'll talk about Fields
Yeah,
later,
we'll
right?
talk about
They
Fields
might be
later, but
getting close to Lawrence, man. Lawrence hasn't been as good.
yeah.
We'll see. He does got the draft capital, so a little bit more safety, you would think. But yeah, definitely interesting, right? We need to do some rankings, right? Update some rankings, right? With some of these guys and some running backs too. These rookie running backs that we'll talk about later. So moving on, going into the Commanders backfield, the opposite end of the spectrum. Man, I thought I'm lucky that I wasn't on the live this morning because I did tell a few people about I was excited about Gibson this week. No McKissick, and I told people 39%. Last week it was 39% of the targets went to the running backs with Heineke, with split though with Gibson and McKissick. So I thought without McKissick, Gibson, this is a smash game for Gibson. He's been doing well with McKissick in the lineup, only getting 30% of the snaps. So I thought this is the week. Gibson, I was like, he's an RB1 this week. Definitely was not the case, man. Gibson and B Rob was terrible, man. B Rob, he had Gibson had 6 fantasy points, 11 for 36, only 2 receptions for 11 yards. Then you got B Rob, he had 5 points, 13 for 44. Oof. Then he had 2 receptions for -6 yards. I didn't think that was possible, but B Rob did it. He did 2 receptions for -6 yards. So that backfield looked bad today. Really, the Commanders, I mean, they had a decent game. They made it competitive against the Vikes, but that backfield just looked bad. They couldn't get anything done in the run game. And then you have Curtis Samuel. He's really the only receiver that did good. 17 fantasy points, was a wide receiver 12 on the week. So good to see from Curtis, right? Because I know a lot of people had him early on. He was doing pretty good early on. Then he's kind of been inconsistent for a few games. So now you see a good little game from Curtis Samuel. So what do you think about these Washington Commanders right now, Ryan?
Well, I think they're a dumpster fire, just like their whole organization, man. It's not really, I don't really want any Washington Commanders right now. I'm just really happy that about a month ago, you accepted my second rounder for Brian Robinson
Yeah, I did.
in a super flex. So that 2023 second looking pretty good over
I'd
the
rather
Brian
have that
Robinson.
over B-Rob right
So yeah, for sure, man. So, but I still think he should be a little bit better, but in the split timeshare, you just don't know who it's going to be, So
now. Yeah. And that was during the time where it was still like, hey, Gibson and him. It was early on, and that B-Rob was going to lead the backfield. So I already had Gibson. So, well, let me just secure that backfield, right? But not looking like something you want to secure anyway. So now moving on, going into speaking of dumpster fires, right? The Carolina Panthers, man. So I don't know, man. DJ Moore finally, right? I hope you sold him, right? These past 2 weeks that he just had great games. Very bad week for DJ Moore and the Panthers, as well. I guess you got Baker Mayfield back. He had a decent second half. I think he had 2 touchdowns in the second half. So I don't know, but he's back in there now. And Foreman just disappointed. We had a lot of people asking about Foreman, and we said, hey, Foreman's got to be in there. We thought with no Chuba Hubbard, he's going to get in there. Maybe he'll get some more receiving work. That was not the case. Black Shear, right? Believe it or not, Black Shear is I think it was RB8, man. Let me see. RB9, Raheem Blackshear. I spelled his name wrong. 15.3 fantasy points. And really, it was just a receiving game, right? He had a receiving touchdown. He only had 5 carries for 13 yards. He did get a rushing touchdown. And then he went 4 for 40. So Raheem Blackshear, believe it or not, probably going to be a name to monitor on the waiver wire. We'll see if Chuba's back. He should be back pretty soon, but we'll be monitoring that situation. But What do you think? Oh, before Terrace Marshall though. Terrace Marshall, man, he had another double-digit fantasy game, and he had a couple of red zone targets. We talked about that last week about just him being a big body target, big body receiver. He did get quite a few touchdowns, right, in college, right, for LSU. So I did like that about Terrace Marshall. We'll see going forward, but he has another solid night for fantasy. For your lineups, get you 14 points this week. So we'll see going forward, something to monitor, but maybe a waiver wire ad for deeper leagues coming up. So what do you think about the Panthers, man? Were you a little disappointed in DJ Moore? I know you're a DJ Moore guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely was, man. But I was more disappointed in Foreman. I'll
Yeah.
take the L. I'll take the L in Foreman because on the live stream I was saying to start Foreman over a lot of people. I thought he was I thought he was a top 12 RB this week. Based on what we saw last week without Chuba Hubbard, right? And again without Chuba, I thought he'd get us 10 to 15 points. I thought he'd be like I said, a solid RB option, and it just wasn't the case, man. And to be fair, they just got down so big, and he's not, a huge pass catcher, and so they were playing from behind the whole game. So he didn't really get a lot of carries, didn't get a lot of work, and like you said, it was this Blackshear fellow. So we'll see, right? I mean, moving forward, as far as DJ Moore is concerned, I mean, if Baker Mayfield is a quarterback, I mean, we've seen what DJ Moore is going to do. It's just not going to be good. The first half he had PJ Walker, and I think he had 0 at the half. So just I don't know. I thought he would be another solid start. I started him in a couple leagues, right? I mean, with so many buys, you have to play players, right? I mean, so I'll take the L for sure on Foreman. But I mean, like I said, I started him in a lot of leagues as my RB2, and it just didn't work out this week. So we'll see. Hopefully, it works out next week because I don't really have a better option in a couple leagues.
So moving on to going to go into Green Bay, continuing to struggle, man. Really, it's all bad there, right? Even today, Aaron Jones, right? He's banged up. Think he's just got a sprained ankle. He might be out a few weeks. And I had AJ Dillon in there. Aaron Jones got banged up. I think it was in the first half still. And I thought, all right, maybe I got AJ Dillon. Maybe he'll get me something. In desperation, in a league where I'm just terrible, I had to start AJ Dillon in there. And man, he puts up a dud again. He just cannot break double-digit fantasy points for the life of him. Got stuffed on the goal line like 50 times. I'm like, dude, man. So Packers disappoint, but Alan Lazard, right, looking like a good call for you. You called him, I think, a cheap Mike Evans. I hope you use the word cheap, but he's pretty much the cheap Mike Evans right now, man. He got since week 1, and really even in week 1, right, when he was since week 2, basically, he's pretty much had double-digit fantasy points every week. It was week 2, he had 9.30. That's the only one that he went under. But just consistent 14, 17, 13, 17, 11, 18 this week. The wide receiver 7 on the week, and he's pretty much getting touchdowns every game, man. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's got 5 out of 7 games, got a touchdown. So that's looking like a good call so far when he's been healthy. Alan Lazard pretty much been a great pickup if you got him in your drafts. I think it was like when was Lazard going? About round 9 or so?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
8
think I got him in round 7 in a couple, and I have some shares of him in round 8 also. So 7, 8, 9, depending
or
on
8. Yeah.
like size
So
of
but
the
he's
league
looking
and different
solid, man. What
things.
do you think about Lazard? You loving it?
I mean, I'm loving it, man. I'm starting him in a lot of leagues as my flex, and he's giving me consistent 15, 16, 17, 18 points. Even the weeks where he didn't get a lot of targets, he gets a touchdown. That's
He
what I'm
is.
saying. Like Aaron Rodgers, like trust him, because he has no other options. Let's be honest. I mean, Romeo Dobbs, I think, got hurt in this game. They got some guys
Yeah, he did.
names Fourier caught a big pass. But guys' names I've never even heard of before, right? Amari Rogers out there, Sammy Watkins out there running the wrong route, right? It looks terrible, man. Rogers looks so frustrated. He's cursing out people and getting mad. And so it's just nice, man, for Lazard. I mean, he's really the only thing you want right now, or at least the only semi-consistent piece, right? Based on where you got him. He's basically playing like right around a wide receiver 20 if you look at the games that he has played. He's a wide receiver too. So on the year, he's not a wide receiver too because he's missed a couple games. But if you look at just points scored and averages, he's basically a wide receiver too. So he's been
Yeah.
pretty good, man.
Yeah, he's definitely been solid, man. So moving on, going into the Seattle Seahawks, and they're just continuing to produce for fantasy, man. Geno Smith, QB4 on the week, and then man, Kenny Skywalker. We got to talk about Kenny Walker for a little bit, right? RB2 on the week again, 27.9 fantasy points. So thinking about dynasty wise, I think he's got to be, I mean, even like ahead of Swift, right? Obviously, I know Javonte Williams still. I mean, we loved him. Everybody loved him, but I mean, with the injury now and really just that's 2 seasons where he kind of underperformed expectations. I mean, I think Kenny Walker's got to be up there. I still would have JT because of that RB1 season, right? Overall, he's disappointed this year, but I still think I'd want JT. I still think with what we saw from Brees in that short outing with those huge runs, the big play upside of Brees, I still would have Brees, maybe ETN, right? And then maybe Barkley, and that's it. I mean, I know CMC, 26 years old already. You're talking in a startup, right? I mean, CMC's already older. Even Eckler, 27. I mean, you're not going to get those guys over Kenny Walker. So Kenny Walker's got to be top 5 dynasty RB. What do you think, man?
Yeah, if we're talking startup, man, you got to be right. Even like Swift, right? I mean, DeAndre Swift, I think I'd probably take Kenneth Walker right
I
now.
would. I would for sure.
Just
Yeah.
because of the injury concerns, get out of Swift. If you can get Kenneth Walker, I'd probably do that, man. The only guy, and I'm probably going to take crap for this, because I'm, that guy right there, man.
No.
I know it's been crap. I know it's been crap. But right now, if you can trade Kenneth Walker and get Najee Harris and a first round pick, I would do that. I would definitely do that.
Say one more time. Najee Harris and who?
Najee Harris and a 2023 first for Kenneth Walker. I would take the first in Najee Harris.
Yeah, maybe depending on how high or mid, I guess.
I'm
If
not
it's a
saying
mid,
I'm not
maybe
saying
not
I'm
late,
trading
but
Kenneth Walker straight up for Najee right now. I'm just saying in Dynasty, if I can trade Kenneth Walker and get Najee and another piece, I would do it. Dude, Najee, okay, look, guys like Najee, they don't go to crap over 1 year, dude. Look what he did last year. He produced. He was like RB3 or 4 for us last year. He's going to be good again. Maybe not this year,
it
but
was
he will
volume.
be. Yeah, but he'll be better next year with if not, probably not this
Their
year.
line is
But
terrible.
he's going to be better, dude. And Pickett will be better. They know that they're going to have to get Najee more involved. It's a great offense to be in, a great scheme. I like Najee for Dynasty. So
Yeah,
I'm not,
he can't be. He'll be a good buy low next year, Najee.
yeah,
Because I think
but
after this season, right, and then he's another year older going into year 3. He came in older, right?
yeah,
So he's probably gonna be like 25 already or something, man.
yeah,
I think
he's probably going to be 25, but we really don't care, man. As long as they're on the rookie,
yeah,
all we care
we got
about
2
is the
more
rookie
years.
deal. So
Yeah, and then we'll see, man, about Pickett. They took a first on Pickett, man. I don't know, not looking good so far.
yeah,
But
it hasn't.
if they can beef up that line for sure. So we'll see how it goes, man. But Kenny Walker for sure looking solid, as well as these wide receivers again. DK catches a touchdown. So DK with a decent outing today. Then you got
Lockett
Tyler
also.
Lockett. Yeah, Lockett wide receiver 10. Lockett is killing, man. 17 fantasy points today. And would you know, Mr. Noah Fant came out to play today. Noah Fant, man, 5 receptions for 96 yards, dude. I mean, we know that Noah Fant can run. He can catch. He gets a lot of yards after the catch. He had some big plays like that, right? It just we haven't seen it for a while. So now you got a pretty good game from Noah Fant. We'll see going forward, but definitely encouraging. I know there's a lot of Noah Fant truthers out there that definitely liked him, especially in Dynasty. So pretty good to see for the Seahawks, man. So let's move on talking about this was one guy that we got wrong, man. Cordarrelle Patterson. And I was right there with you. We thought, hey, first game back, let's sit Patterson. Let's see how it's going to be, right? His first game back. We're not sure about what the snap percentage will be, how much they'll lean on him. I mean, he got 13 carries, right? 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, I guess we were right. I mean, 13 for 44. I mean, that's decent amount of carries, but I mean, he got 2 rushing touchdowns in there. Really, Algier looked better than him. Algier had 100 yards rushing off of, let me see what it was. It was only 10 carries, man, and 100 yards for Algier. And then he gets 1 target, 1 reception for 24 yards. So Algier definitely looking like a solid little pickup. I know you grabbed him in a dynasty, right? Like in round 2. So we'll see going forward, but
Yeah.
that backfield looks pretty good. That's about all that looks decent right now for the Falcons, man. So what do you think about Algier and Patterson?
Well, like I said, I mean, I guess I gotta take the L on it because I was telling people I don't like Patterson at least this week, but Algier still I was telling people to start Algier over him. and a couple of other guys can't remember. But I mean, Algier still gave you 13 points, so he didn't like completely kill you. Um,
That's yeah, that's not bad at
so
all.
yeah, I mean, so and
Especially with
he does look good, man. Algier looks good. So in Dynasty, yeah, I did have some shares of Algier. I think I still have a couple of shares, but I did trade one of my shares of Algier. I know in one of our leagues I traded him for a second, and Sam Howell, which I don't know. I'm a Carson Wentz owner in that super flex league, so we'll see how that works out. But I was thinking at some point, right, we have to give Sam Howell a look. I know we're not talking about the Commanders, but
he
I
might
would
get a shot.
assume at some point Sam Howell's going to get a shot, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think about when you were talking about Lazard. I remember you sent me a second rounder for Lazard, and I was like, dude, I want Lazard, man. In the beginning of the year, looking like a stupid
Yeah,
decline.
dude, I sent out so many offers for Lazard. Nobody wanted him.
Juju as well.
I sent out Juju. I sent out Allen Robinson. I sent a trade for Allen Robinson for Lazard straight up, and it got turned down and laughed
Yeah,
at because Allen Robinson was this huge bounce back player. I'm glad that was rejected.
rejected. Sometimes that helps, man. Those rejected trades when you go back and look at, man, I'm glad that was rejected. So moving on to the rookie, man, Garrett Wilson with a big night. Wide receiver 9. He goes 8 for 92. He's looking good, man. Without Elijah Moore, he was doing pretty good. So I know Elijah Moore has been in the doghouse right now. Garrett Wilson with back-to-back 17-point games, looking pretty solid. They're going into the bye right now. But Garrett Wilson and the Jets with a huge win, dude, over the Buffalo Bills. So, and they look solid on the ground, man. Michael Carter is 15 points today, right? He's the RB8 on the week. And James Robinson wasn't too bad either, man. Carter rushed for 76 yards, had a couple of receptions. Actually, only had one reception, dude. One reception. And then James Robinson was decent as well. I think he found the end zone as well. RB14 on the week. So the Jets look good today against Buffalo, man. They had a solid win for them. Their defense is really good, man. Their corners, Sauce Gardner, they look good tonight, man.
Yeah, they definitely caused some turnovers with Allen. I think he had a fumble,
Yeah.
at least one or maybe even two interceptions. So they definitely, you know, seem to confuse him or frustrate him definitely at times. But I'm liking Garrett Wilson, man. I have a lot of shares of him in Dynasty, and hopefully Elijah Moore will stay in the doghouse. But I guess what's good to see is that this is happening with Zach Wilson, man. Zach Wilson hasn't really been all that great, and he's still getting some pretty good volume, some good targets. So this is good to see, man, as a rookie. You know what I mean? So I'm excited for Garrett Wilson and for the Jets. Like the Jets were such an exciting team, and they lost Brees Hall, man. That's crazy, and they still beat the Bills. I mean, it's a big win. Like the Jets are definitely their stock is rising, man. I really like their coach. I liked him with the
Yeah.
Robert Saleh. I liked him with the 49ers. I thought he was a really good defensive-minded,
So
team-oriented coach, kind of like a little bit like Dan Campbell, right? Like he just gets a lot out of those guys, man. He's just a great coach. Um, and those guys are playing together, man, and they beat the Bills, man. I don't
Lost
think that was
Brees
going to happen.
still.
Yeah.
Lost Brees, still, man, with a big win. So let's move on. So in the opposite end, man, Swift and Amonra just disappointed today, right? The Detroit Lions. So Swift only 8 fantasy points, dude. He got 6 opportunities, dude. So if you're a Swift owner, I know I am, and even in Dynasty, man, it's just been disappointing. I mean, last week he did decent. This week, I mean, it's solid. I mean, three receptions, 40 yards, which is great. But man, 8 points for your fantasy team. But I think we talked about sitting him, right? Most places. But man, just because you were just worried about the usage, but it's just weird because he's limited on usage, but sometimes he still does decent if he gets maybe a receiving touchdown or something like that. But just 2 carries, dude. 2 carries for 10 yards. I mean, Jamal Williams didn't look good either. And then Amon-Ra, I thought just disappointed, man. I thought without Hockenson, I was ready. I mean, he was a buy low target. He's still I mean, even more so now, he's going to be a buy low target for me after this game. Put up only 9 fantasy points when people were pretty much expecting him to come in and smash, man. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, still a buy low. Swift possibly probably going to be a buy low for me too right now, depending on the price, right? If you can get him, because he still is a big name out there. But just completely disappointing, man, performances from Swift and Amon-Ra. So what did you think about this Lions game, man?
I mean, like you said, they were just disappointing, man. And it was one of those calls in the live stream. I was like, really, I just don't know, man. I mean, how do you sit Swift if he plays? But we saw all week he was limited, and so we had a feeling that he wasn't going to be getting a lot of the snaps. But I mean, I thought he would get more than this, right? 6 opportunities. I mean, these might as
Yeah.
well not play him. And really, my worry for Swift long term is that they really don't have anything to play for, man. I mean, so if he's kind of banged up, I mean, the coach might just be like, "Hey, we're going to shut him down for the year, right? In the next couple of weeks, maybe
Yeah.
not like 2 or 3 weeks, but as we get closer to playoffs for fantasy wise, right? It's like, well, there's not really any reason to play him. He's banged up. They might just shut him down for the year. And then if that happens, I mean, obviously that stinks for us Swift owners.
Yeah. So moving on, man, to the stars of the week. We got two, right? Gonna be on the thumbnail, man. Justin Fields, dude, continuing to smash, dude, for fantasy. That's a couple of straight weeks in a row, but I'm glad because we had him as our QB streamer, right? He was our number one QB ad on the waiver wire show last week. And really just because the rushing yards, I mean, he's been getting 80, 80, then 60. But today, man, sets an NFL record. It was 178 yards, man, on the ground. He threw the ball more. They had 28 pass attempts. Mooney did pretty good. A solid night for Mooney and Komet, right? Which was good. Claypool, not so much his first game, but he did get 6 targets. So I thought that was encouraging. I know a lot of people were excited about Claypool there. I'm not really, to be honest, just because the volume is not there. And really for Mooney, he's been turning a corner, but it took a while and it's just not been good if you're a Mooney owner, right? You've been disappointed from what you expected. So I'm not too excited with another pass catcher there, but Mooney looks solid today. And Justin Fields, man, he threw the ball a lot. 28 pass attempts. This was most pass attempts. You kind of saw that coming playing Miami, right? Gonna have be in a shootout. Only 120 yards passing, but rushing, man, 178 yards, broke off a 61-yard touchdown. Man, that little fake handoff has been working for them, man, and it worked today, man. He was solid, man. So 178 yards. Definitely liking that for my dynasty shares. I have some Fields where I traded up for him, right? Or traded up. I had Zach Wilson. I was only like, I got sniped by Fields, right? At the 106, I was 107. I traded away Zach Wilson and like the 206 or something for just to move up to get Fields. The guy got it, accepted it, and I'm liking it right now, man. Zach Wilson not look good. Justin Fields definitely 4 promising games in a row. So we'll see going forward if he can keep it up. He's got 2 more solid matchups coming up. So what'd you think about Justin Fields, man?
Yeah, I thought it was great to see. I don't have any shares of him in Dynasty, sadly. I have a lot of shares of Lance from that class, which is not looking good for me, my Lance shares. But I do have some shares of him in DFS, and he won me some pretty good money this week in DFS, starting him. Just a huge win at quarterback because he was pretty cheap in DFS. So, yeah, man, he's looking good. Like you said, he broke an NFL record for rushing, and he's passing just enough to like where they kind of have to respect that. And then now getting Claypool, I think it's going to help him. Right, another weapon. He's got Claypool, he's got Mooney, he's got Komet. He's got some pretty good weapons. So I mean, I'm liking it for Fields, man. So hopefully he can keep it up. Right.
Yep. QB1 on the week, man. 42.7 fantasy points. I was disappointed in Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert and Montgomery, man, they were just absent, right, from the week, man. Just terrible games from them. I played Khalil Herbert and won. After that week that he had last week, had 15 points. I thought, let me get Khalil in here, man. He's starting to pick it up. Definitely not the case, man. And then our number one right here, we have Joe Mixon just explodes, man. If you played against Joe Mixon, I'm sorry for you. But 55 fantasy points for Joe Mixon, dude. I think he was 4 touchdowns, 4 or 5 touchdowns, 22 for 153, 4 touchdowns on the ground. Then he goes 4 for 58 and another touchdown in the receiving game. So Joe Mixon what a night for Joe Mixon. I had him in one lineup, so I was feeling good, man. I had that. We posted that little meme of Jordan with the cigar. That's how you were feeling if you were sitting back watching the games after you're playing Joe Mixon in your starting lineup. So, what'd you think about the Bengals game, man? I mean, Burrow's still pretty good. Higgins has a good night, but Joe Mixon just steals the show, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I said earlier, like he saved me in a guillotine league. We're down to like the last 9 or 10 teams, started at 18 or 19. He saved me, man, because I got so many injuries in that guillotine league. I got Chase. I think I have Brees Hall. I started AJ Dillon. That's all you need to know about my RB2 situation. But Joe Mixon, I think, had 55 for me in that league. I think there's some bonuses for touchdowns and first downs, but to get that from one RB is just crazy, man. And what's even crazier is he didn't even play the fourth quarter, dude. He didn't even play the fourth quarter. So at one point I thought maybe he like played like one snap, and I was thinking, well, maybe they're gonna try to tie the record, right? Because the record is 6 NFL touchdowns, and it's Kamara and I think like Gale Sayers or something they said. So I was like, maybe they're gonna try to get him the record, and I think they kind of got smart and said, nah, it's not worth it, and they took him out. But yeah, it's just crazy, man, to see that. And Joe Burrow, man, again with a solid game, man. Solid game, top 3 or 4 quarterback for the year.
Yep. And with no Chase.
Yep.
Yeah, he put him away early, man. He put him away early. So, guys, that's all we have for you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe. And until then, we'll see you guys next time.